I'm going to tell you what took me the last 5 years to figure out in less than 10 minutes, and it's so simple. It comes down to two things. And once you implement and master these two things, you can have the potential to scale any company to making over 7 figures per year. And it comes down to these two core principles that most companies never figure out. And that's always why they stay so small and are never able to actually sell. So what it comes down to is two things, like I've already said. It comes down to CAC, which is your cost to acquire a customer. And then it comes down to your LTV. How much is your customer worth to the lifetime? And then we have to break this down to your first 30 days and your first 90 days, and then it's just your lifetime value. So if you can get this ratio right here to be this number as low as possible and this number as high as possible, you are going to be able to build a successful company. And what your LTV is, like I said, your lifetime value. How much is the customer worth to you over the lifetime that you'll have that customer? And with your lifetime value, you have another subcategory below that, which you're going to measure, which is going to be your 30-day LTV. How much cash are you going to collect in the first 30 days that you have this customer? Because what you're really doing is you got to figure out your cost to acquire a customer, which is going to be your upfront cost, which would be like for your average CAC, say your average CAC for us for permanent holiday lights, it is about $500 on average throughout the whole year is what it's going to cost us to acquire a customer. So our $500 is our CAC to acquire a customer. And within the first 30 days, we want to be able to pay as many $500 amounts as possible. If we could pay 20 $500 amounts with this 30-day LTV, we will have a business that is worth so much money and will be able to scale so quickly. And what our average LTV, like I'm just going to give you some numbers of what we run. We run $500 CAC, and then our LTV, our 30-day LTV is our LTV, our profit is $2,000. That's what we profit. So it's $2K. Now, this is a pretty good money model, right? We spend $500 and we're going to profit $2,000 in the first 30 days. Now, the problem, like for us, if we're in a home service business, is once you do this, you have other problems. Like you have to figure out your people. You have to figure out how to keep your close rates high. You have to figure out how to keep this CAC down, because once you start putting more money onto ads, your CAC begins to go up. And whenever this number rises, you start making no money, because this is still staying the same. And sometimes this will even lower. And if this is lowering and this is going up, you're going to go out of business, because you can't afford to spend that money if you don't have money already. But once you can figure out how to get this CAC as low as possible and the LTV as high as possible, that is when you will start making real money. And here is like some examples of roughly what this could look like in some different industries. So first we're going to go over for like a holiday lighting company that installs once a year, and that's it. That's all they do. Now, your CAC is typically going to be, if you're doing premium installs, it's going to be around $1,200. So, or I mean, not your CAC. No. Your LTV, your 30-day LTV will be around $1,200. Now, your cost to acquire your customer, if you have everything dialed in, will typically land around $400 is what your CAC is going to be. Now, with this ratio, we have $400. Our revenue is $1,200. Now, if you're running at a healthy margin, you're going to profit. This is going to be at 50%. No, this will be at 50% gross margin, which means that we're going to profit $600 in our first 30 days. Now, we spent $400 to acquire this customer. So that is a very bad situation to be in. Now, it's not the worst thing in the world, but we are at a 1.5x. And most people would think like that's horrible, like that's horrific. Now, it's not the best situation in the world, but what we got to think about is, sure, we're spending $400 and we're going to make $600 back the first year. But now people will say that's bad, like I said. Now, what if, I'm just going to put this out here. What if we spend $800 to acquire this customer? and we're only going to profit $600. You'd be like, that's dumb. I'm literally losing $200. Why would I do that? That makes zero sense. Now, you're right. Your ROAS is at a 0.75x. But with this, we now have, this is our 30-day LTV. Now, most people, they're only looking at the 30-day LTV, which it's important because if this is higher and this is lower than that, you're going to be able to spend more money to acquire customers, obviously. Now, what we also got to think about is we spent $800 and we have $600 in LTV in the first 30 days. Now, what about in 3 years down the road? This number goes up because also our materials have gone down for Christmas lights. So now we're profiting, say, we're profiting $800 per year. So now we're profiting 800 plus 600. No, year 2, look at where we're at. What is this number? This is $1,200 profit. Now our next year, we're going to add another $800. Now guess what? We're at 2K. Now guess what? On our third year, this is our second year. This is our second year. This is our third, or this is our first year right here. Now this is our third year. Now if you have really good retention, now say we have a fourth year. Now we're at like, what is this? $2,800. 2.8K. Like look at this. 2.8K, and we spent $800 to acquire that customer. We just made $2,000 off that customer. Now, this is the game big companies are playing, the big corporations, private equity, these big and massive foundations or companies. They will go ahead and they'll spend, like for example, because like obviously we're in software. Like there's one company out there. They will literally spend $1,500 to acquire a customer that's going to pay them $100 in 30 days, and then they're gonna wait 16 months before they can collect anything. And most people would think that's crazy, but they're getting them into a base tier and then they upsell them into more things. Then they're gonna keep them. They're gonna keep them for 10, 20 years on their software, and that's how they start making real money. Now, like I said, if you can figure out how to get the CAC as low as possible and LTV as high as possible on the first 30 days, and you can afford to buy 10 customers, once you profit like $1,000, you spend $100, you profit $1,000 in your first 30 days, you can go in the next 30 days, go spend money. You can go get 10 more clients. Now, that's ideal, but I'm kind of making circles here, but like I'm trying to enforce the idea here. You can literally, if you can just figure out how to increase your LTV as much as possible on like for the lifetime of the customer, figure out how to increase that value. You can spend whatever it costs to acquire a customer. You just have to make sure you can keep your LTV as high as possible and keep your customers. You don't want to be churning customers. You want to keep them coming. Now, let me give you guys another example here. For, like, say we're doing like a marketing agency, which I'm sure, like, on my opinion, most marketing agencies are complete scams. They literally are just churn machines. They don't know how to run ads. They're just doing it, and they're just getting money, and they're just going through as many people as possible. Like me personally, I would not hire a marketing agency at all because they're not worth it. Now, what happens with them is that their CAC, for example, we're going to put this number out here. They're going to spend, an average marketing agency will spend 1.5K to acquire a customer. And then their LTV is only going to be their 30-day. Is going to be like, depending on what their offer is, say it's like 10K. Now, you'd be like, that's great. But since they don't have a good reputation, this 30-day LTV, it stays the same. But the problem is that their CAC rises exponentially, and eventually they're going to be at a point where they're going to spend 7K just on ad spend to acquire a customer. And if they're spending 7K and only getting 10K, and then that's for, say this is for 90 days, this is going to be your average agency offer right here. They're going to spend a 10K, they're going to have that for 90 days, then they suck. They didn't give you any results at all. They basically just lost money because their fees to actually run that is going to be more than 3K, and they spent 7K. They make no money. And that's why you see agencies always fall apart and they have to go to new industries. It's because they ruin their name and their CAC goes up too high, and their LTV, they can't figure out how to increase it. Because now if you're a good marketing agency, you'd figure out, oh yeah, we can make another 3K per month because you actually know what you're doing. And now we keep them for 5 years. Bro, that's That's 60 months. 60 months times this right here. That's straight up 180K. Like we can spend 20K to acquire a customer, but you're not going to have to because you have a good reputation. You're going to start getting leads for free. So these are just some different examples of how important your CAC and your LTV is, and kind of some like just showing you some different industries and different ways of how to make this is how basically big companies actually scale. This is how they're able to scale to those huge billion-dollar valuations, is by figuring out this ratio right here. And now I guess what I can do is, like I said, this is 10 minutes. I showed you the numbers. Now I'm going to go over in more detail some of the different variables that can affect each of these. Now for CAC, what would affect CAC? It's going to be mainly your ads. Now, what does this mean? This is going to be if we want to go down to micro numbers, you're going to have your click-through rate. What is your click-through rate on your ads? Then you're going to have your CPM. How much does it cost per 1,000 views? Then we're going to have after that, you're going to have your funnel page conversion rate. What is that? Is your funnel page converting at a good rate to be able to take these clicks from this click-through rate and convert them into leads? Then we have our appointment show rate. What's our appointment show rate? We want to keep that as high as possible, obviously. Then after that, after your appointment show rate, then you're going to have your close rate, obviously. Then after your close rate, we're going to have this is where we start rolling into here, but what is your, that's basically it. These are basically going to be your numbers. You're going to have your ads, and it's going to come down to click-through rate, really CPM, click-through rate, then how many clicks are converting into, what's the conversion rate from your clicks to appointments, then what is your appointment show rate, and then what is your close rate. So that's what you can do. These are just the few variables. There's so many more, but that helps with CAC. Then what you're going to have is your LTV. And now for LTV, to increase this, you'd be like, what is your monthly reoccurring revenue on them? What are your upsells looking like? What are your downsells to make sure you close as many people as possible? And this kind of feeds into your close rate. The more downsells you have, the more likelihood you are able to get at least someone to buy something, even if it's your bare minimum package. You'll get them to buy something at least. And that helps increase your LTV, obviously, because you're getting them in your system, your ecosystem. You can start upselling them into more things. You need to have your upsells dialed in. You need to figure out monthly recurring revenue. You need to figure out, how do we get our yearly recurring revenue up? If we have yearly things, like if we have, like for events, if you're running events, how can we get more people to show up to our event? How can we get them to spend more money at our event? We got to think about these different things. We got to figure out, how can we increase the LTV? What are the different things we can do? And there's so many different things that you can do to help increase this. Like, let me give you an example. For permanent lights, like what we do is we charge 10% of the job cost. Our average job is $5,500, okay? So that means we're going to charge $550. Let me go over here. We're going to charge $550 per year, okay? And that comes out to being like, it's like what, $47 a month is what we charge them. And now that helps us stack money, because even if we get 50% of our people to do this, we're making 5% compounding every single year on all of the revenue that we do. And this helps really increase the value of our company and help us not start from zero every month, so that we're just stacking revenue. Now, it's not the most ideal thing because it's not that much, but it compounds over time and helps you get more revenue. Because then, like, I know I'm jumping all over the place here, but what we do in this is we include a semi or bi-yearly, two visits per year. Then we come out and we check up on the lights. And with this, what we do is we'll go out there and we're literally going to walk through. We're going to walk through the whole lights, and it's basically a sales opportunity. It's a sales opportunity to try to get them into another upsell, get them into our higher package, get them to buy more lights, expand, put more lights on their house. Like, we got to figure out how to increase the LTV as quick as possible and get it to as high as possible. And that's just one way we can do it. Now, say you're doing power washing. For power washing, you would sell a monthly reoccurring subscription, and we'll come out and we'll clean out your your whole entire place, like say it's quarterly, you're going to come in and clean up the whole entire place quarterly, and you want to word it correctly. You want to make it feel like they have to do it, and it's a good value. You have to stack the value in there. Look at Alex Hormozy. Figure out how can we stack as much value in this package to be able to get them to purchase it. And these are some of the ways you can help, increase your LTV. And really, I mean, that goes into pretty good detail. There's like we could go down thousands of different little tiny micro metrics for each thing, looking at our literal view rate, like what was the percentage viewed on each video we sent out in the pre-sequence, how many people watched this one video to being able to convert. Like there's so many different metrics when actually scaling the company that you can look at. Now these are just kind of like, these are still in detail, but these two right here, the only things that matter. You base all of your decisions in any company based on your CAC and your LTV. That's literally all I do in our company and Ignitely AI. That's all I do is literally figure out how can we decrease the CAC and increase the LTV as much as possible. And that is how you build a big company. So if you want any help with this at all, feel free to go click in the description, book a call with me. And if you're in any company, I mean, we only help home service companies, but if you're in any industry, please go book a call with us. I would love to talk to you and figure out kind of what you're doing and give you some ideas, and we can bounce ideas off of each other. So thank you guys for watching. And if you watch this point, please go leave a comment down below and tell me what are you going to start doing to help implement this? And if you do, I will shoot you a DM with the exact playbook that I have that has every single metric down to a science and has everything down. I'll send that over to you, and it's on a flowchart and everything, so you can go ahead and look at that. But I hope that helps you guys, and I'll see you guys on the next one.